So this is fascinating. Back in 2012, the Obama administration almost brought antitrust charges against Google, but then they didn't. Matt Stoller explains the damage that ensued from a lack of regulation on Google in his latest piece, How Economists Corrupted the Internet, which details those specific issues.
So author and friend Matt Stoller, he joins us now to discuss whether Biden can reverse the damage that was done. Matt, first of all, go into some of what these documents actually showed. From 2013, it leaked in Politico. It's been hard to decipher the exact meaning of what it all is, and then what could be done in order to fix it.
Yeah, so it is hard because a friend of mine referred to this as sort of the Pentagon Papers of antitrust. We have 3 antitrust suits right now against Google for monopolizing the web and monopolizing distribution of search. And that's ruined the web. The stakes here are really high. The web is a dumpster fire full of scam artists and people trying to harm you and steal your money. And Google helps them. And that's because Google monopolizes the web. So the stakes are pretty big here. But in 2012, the Obama administration, the FTC, knew they were doing this. They had the evidence they were doing this. And the lawyers, one part of the FTC has antitrust lawyers, they were like, we want to bring a suit. But the economists said, no, everything that Google is doing, preferencing their own content over competitors, signing exclusive agreements to lock out rivals, and scraping from rivals to undermine their business, that's all fine. And so they didn't bring a suit because the economists were like, no, everything that Google is doing is fine. They also made ridiculous predictions. It's hilarious when you read the documents because the economists who like to call themselves scientists, they predict that no one would ever really use mobile to do search. It would stay on desktop, right? And this is 2012. This is not it's 5 years after the iPhone came out. So. They were like, yeah, tracking, surveillance advertising where you track people around the web and show them ads, that's not going to be a big thing. It'll be a little bit. It's not going to be a big thing. They predicted that. They were like, data doesn't really matter in terms of search quality. All these things that were crazy and that were crazy at the time. And these are the scientists who were making these predictions. So it's this insane moment where we can see, oh my gosh, the emperor has no clothes in antitrust regulation, and this is why corporate power is just out of control.
Yeah.
And you use some specific examples in this piece of what it means that Google has this monopoly and how it impacts consumers and people who are performing searches for things that might be vital for their life on a daily basis. Just make that a little bit tangible and concrete for people.
Yeah, I think the best example is when people are addicted to alcohol or drugs and they're looking for a rehab clinic. Google has had a consistent problem where they will send people to these shoddy fly-by-night clinics that are trying to steal their money. And ultimately, many of them will relapse and die. And Google made money from ads from these firms. And then their algorithm, eventually they stopped selling ads because they were like, well, it's too tacky to be killing people. But these firms were able to game the algorithm anyway. And the reason they were able to do that is because Google doesn't focus on specialized verticals. Firms like Yelp or TripAdvisor or others do. And Google used to send lots of traffic to the best result. But in 2007, they stopped doing that. They said, we want to keep all of the traffic on our own site. And so they were like, we're going to organize everything. Well, as it turns out, you can't organize everything. And when you try, you do things like you send people who are desperate to places that are going to steal their money and ultimately lead to their deaths. I mean, there's a lot of other problems, there's small businesses that get scammed and consumers that will look for a repair person and it'll turn out it'll be some fraudulent person. You have fake Microsoft Windows support, fake Netflix support. When you Google things, you're not necessarily getting the most relevant query anymore. You're getting whoever will pay Google to manipulate you. And that's a function of their monopolization.
And Matt, whenever we're talking here about what can be done, and the Biden administration in particular, it's really all over the map, right, in terms of who the appointees are. There's been a lot of talk about Lina Khan and Tim Wu there. If we were to see that they are serious about doing something about this, what are the signs that we should look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the appointment of Lina Khan is a big deal. So that's a signal that they're serious. But the other slot that's important is the antitrust division at DOJ. They haven't chosen anyone, and who they choose is very important. Merrick Garland is pretty bad on this stuff. So that particular slot under the Justice Department is something we're watching carefully. And then there's also a whole bunch of laws or proposed laws, and we don't know what the Biden administration is going to say about those laws. But will they continue and expand the Google antitrust suit that Trump brought? Are they going to bring regulatory power to bear from the FTC? Who's the chair or the fifth member of the FTC that they're going to appoint? Because Lena just makes it 2-2. There's an empty slot there. So it's really right now a question of personnel.
Yeah, but you actually make the case you think Biden is going to be better than Obama on these issues because Obama was sort of more comfortable. I mean, it's almost like a class thing. Like Obama was more comfortable. He saw the tech oligarchs as his buddies. They helped him get elected. And Biden has always had a little bit more of an adversarial or skeptical, I guess I should say, view of them.
Yeah, Obama wanted to become a venture capitalist after he left, or he talked about it. And Biden called to tech CEOs little creeps, right? Like he likes the cable guys, right? The oil guys. He doesn't like the tech guys. He thinks they wear hoodies and are annoying, know-it-alls. And it is a class thing. It's like Biden, has a sort of, he's resentful of the like technocratic economists. So it's a really big change. The other thing is, there was a lot of corruption, right? So Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google, he was this is like the case. They closed the Google case a month after Obama's reelection in 2012. Eric Schmidt was in the campaign headquarters, personally overseeing the voter turnout software for the Obama campaign. So they had a meeting a week in the White House. I mean, they were very close as well. So there's going to be a stark change from the Obama administration.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Great to see you, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.